I ended up watching the Nebraska. I ended up watching the entire Cornhuskers Buckeyes game, which was in Nebraska, and I was highly proven wrong because I predicted the Cornhuskers to win that game, 34-31. Cornhuskers to kick a game-winning field goal with 3 minutes or less left, and Cornhuskers also to win. Well, I already said winning. That the main reason why they'd win is because they'd be effectively running the football, which also would be the main reason why they're winning time of possession and not having to defend against the Buckeyes, limiting the high plays. And obviously they didn't do that because they didn't outrun the Buckeyes for running the foot. They didn't win the running battle against the Buckeyes, and in the first half, they kept on turning the football over, which was mainly why they lost that football game, along with they continued to give up big plays even when they weren't turning the football over. I don't need you to tell me again, Alex, really. Anyways, and it just went from bad to worse. I say it was bad at 17-zip, and I still had optimism they can come back. Once it became 24-zip, then it became worse, and it got even worse in the first half because the score at halftime was 38-zip, and it wasn't just 38-zip. My optimism completely disappeared that they'd be able to come back once it became 24-zip because they're not the 2010 Auburn Tigers that had a great offense that they were able to come back by more than 15 points against Alabama, which, if I recall right, was in Alabama, against a great Alabama team. They're not the great Oregon Ducks when the Ducks have typically had one of the best offenses, which was during the Mariota years and before Mariota, or the 2005 USC that also had one of the greatest offenses, which played against the Texas Longhorns in the Rose Bowl, and they ended up losing. They don't have one of those great offenses, so that's why my optimism that even with this being in Nebraska, it dropped, that they wouldn't be able to come back from 24-zip, even though they would have had a high amount of time to come back because they were playing a great team. They made a high amount of mistakes, and it'd be really hard. They would have most likely gone with 4 possessions, not going with 2-point conversions. But even if they go with 2-point conversions, it'd be really hard to score 3 touchdowns. Well, it'd be tough to scoring 3 touchdowns. It'd be tough to score both 3 touchdowns and get all 3 2-point conversions. One of them, okay, that might happen, but 3 consecutive 2-point conversions, that'd be really challenging. That's a high wall to climb. Didn't see that happening. And I just continued to watch this game just to see how much worse it would get because it was freaking hot garbage. It was like the terrible, entertaining movie The Room, and it just got from bad to worse. And so yeah, I was highly proven wrong because the Buckeyes, they scored 7 more points than what I predicted them to score in the entire game, and they scored, to be exact, 18 more points than what I predicted them to score for the entire game, and they already had 7 more points than what I predicted them to have the entire game before at halftime, since it was 38-zip. And this game was so terrible with the Buckeyes defense completely dominating the Cornhuskers that if they wanted to, they could have just punted the freaking football for the entire second half and they still would have won by more than 31 points because the Cornhuskers offense continued to be contained by the great Buckeyes defense. And So obviously the Buckeyes, a great team, they completely outplayed the Cornhuskers from start to finish because they always led in this game. They were never trailing. The only time this game was even only the only time this game was ever tied was because at 0-0. After the Buckeyes scored, okay, it looked like maybe the Cornhuskers might still have life, but then it just snowballed out of control because then it just got bad with the Buckeyes again increasing the lead. Cornhuskers turning the football over and then reaching up to 17 and then getting worse. So Cornhuskers were outplayed from start to finish in this game. They made the common mistakes that a team playing a great team can't make, including multiple turnovers in the first half. Obviously, it would have been dreadful to have the turnovers in the second half, but when you have them, but also it's really hard to keep the game close in the first half if you have more than one turnover in the first half against a great undefeated team, whether you're playing Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, etc. They made all the kind of critical mistakes that a team playing a great undefeated team can't make if they actually want to keep the game close and have a decent chance to win getting into the fourth quarter. So that's my reaction. There were other things should have done this pretty much exactly on Sunday evening, but better late than never. Or like late Saturday night, late or early Sunday morning. Better late than never.